to share y'all this awesome thought.
Amen.
When I was, I think, a 9th or a 10th grader, right at the beginning of summer, this coach came up to me because I was a basketball player and I did all good in track and everything. He come up to me and asked me would I run cross country, would I be on the cross country team? And I told him, I said, well, I'll do it. And I lived in Charlestown, and Sellersburg was one straight stretch, and it was almost 7 miles from Charlestown to Sellersburg. And he told all of us to meet at the school, and we was going to run from the school to Sellersburg. There's an A&W root beer stand, and we was going to meet there. So there was about 8 of us, and we all took off, and there was about 3 guys or 4 guys that took off in front of us, and we didn't see them again until we got to the A&W root beer stand. And when we got there, we were drenched in sweat, and these guys were drinking root beer and eating candy bars. And for that whole summer, we had to run from Charlestown to Sellersburg. And and every time we went, those guys disappeared. So when we come up to the track, to our cross-country meets, we was a little bitty, Charlestown was a little bitty town, and Jeffersonville and New Albany and Clarksville was all way bigger than us, and they had all these guys to choose from. And every time I went to a cross-country meet, we would take off, and I finished every meet in the top 5. So we had to go to the state, and we went to Jeffersonville, and we all had to go get our numbers and take it on, or pin it onto our shirt. And I was only 5'3" until I was, after I was 18, I grew as tall as I am now. But I was 5'3", I weighed 98 pounds. But I ran from Charlestown to Sellersburg every time. And when I got in that meet, every person there was as tall as that young man or Noah. They was as tall as that man, and I came up to about right here on them. And we all had to wear steel spikes on our shoes because when we ran cross country, we went up hills, over top hills, come down. Well, in this last meet we had to go on, they took us on this meet before we go so they could show us where we had to run. And so we got to this meet, and we had to go a real long way this way, then we had to go all the way up this hill, all the way across the hill, come down the hill, and come across a creek, and there was a bridge made out of railroad ties. And then it wasn't very far to the finish line. So when I took off that day, I was in the front because I was one of the ones that always finished. And all them guys running was hitting me in my legs with them steel spikes. And I was bleeding. Blood was running down my legs. And they took off. And they tried to outrun me. Them big, tall, long-legged guys tried to outrun me. But I had ran from Charlestown to Sellersburg all them times, so they didn't. And I stayed with them. And I was running across that hill. And these guys took off, and they took off from me. And I tried my best to keep up with them, but they went on. And I got down, coming down the hill, I saw them, and they were, some of them was sitting in the middle of that railroad tie bridge, and some of them was trying to get their shoes off. Well, they ran down that hill, and when they come, they stuck them steel spikes in that railroad tie, and they couldn't go anywhere. And I ran past, I was going to be the first person in that line to win. And this guy reached up and grabbed my shirt and tried to pull me down. And he pulled my number off. I ran to the finish line, and the guy at the finish line told me I couldn't finish without my number. So I ran back and get my number, and these guys got up, and I had to race them all the way to the end. And I came in second that day. I got me a silver medal. But God showed me, and He showed me while I was sitting there, that it doesn't matter how many people are called, but only few are chosen. And it's not to the one who runs the swiftest, but it's to the one who endureth unto the end. And God is asking us, this church, this little bitty ecclesia, this little bitty small church, He's asking us to run from Charlestown to Sellersburg. 6.5 or 7 miles, that's a long way. But if you go there and you go get a root beer or whatever, then you have to run back. And you do that all summer long. And some of us have been here, I've been going on almost 30 years now, but that don't mean anything. But I've been running, and I've been trying my best, and I try to do what Brother Marlowe says or whatever. I do what the Bible, I try to do it. And I've been running. But it's not, again, there's a whole lot of churches out there that's big and tall, and they got longer legs. And if you let them, they can hinder you when you take off. If you let them people out there, them long legs and them steel spikes, you can let them hinder you when you take off, and you can let them make you stop or make you quit. But here's what I want to show you. There was 8 of us on our team in Charlestown, and only 3 of us made it on the team because them other guys was catching rides. They would get outside of Charlestown and they would catch a ride in a car, and they would drive to Sellersburg, and they would sit there and wait on us. And they weren't sweaty, so my coach figured out they weren't even running. So every time we had a meet, those guys wouldn't even finish. They wouldn't even finish halfway because they never practiced. And the whole key to it is, if your coach, if Brother Marlowe or these ministers or Jesus tells you to run, you got to give it all you can. And don't let them other churches or don't let other religious people try to keep you down.
No.
Because again, Jesus said it's not to the swiftest, not he that runs the swiftest, but to the one who endureth unto the end. The same shall be saved.
Amen.
And I would have came in first. But again, sometimes religion or whatever will try to pull you down and try to, and they hinder you.
Yes.
But again, I could have, I don't know what I could have come in that day. I know I was going to be first. That guy pulled my sting off. But again, my coach taught me, no matter how big I was, and I was little, but he taught me, you got to be feisty. He said, you're always going to be running against people bigger than you. But they're not going to be better than you. They're just going to be bigger, but they're not better because you, our boys basketball team, we practice every day over across Mannatee Avenue, and we practice in the hot sun, or if it's cold, but we practice outside, and all the teams that we play have gyms, and they're all going to be practicing in the gyms. And Bobby comes, those boys run a lot of suicides, and a suicide is a hard thing to do because you have to run 5 or 6, but all of the kids on our team, when it comes to the basketball games, you wait and see if y'all come and see us play. Our boys is going to last for 4 quarters because they've been playing out in the sun, and they've been playing out. They don't have to play in air-conditioned gyms. But Jesus told me, hey, this race we took off on in this church, we're not finished yet. There's going to be some hills to climb. There's going to be some hills to climb. There's going to be some obstacles. But if you lay aside all your weights, when you go across a railroad bridge and you don't weigh very much, your feet won't stick in the railroad bridge. And those guys that try to knock me out of the way and try to run over me and try to make me stop when I come back to get my thing, they couldn't. They couldn't because again, it's not to that great big old called out world out there that God's going to give the reward to. It's going to be to those remnants all over the world. But I thank God He showed me that because I'm glad that I didn't run from Charlestown to Sellersburg all that time, and my labor was not in vain. It wasn't in vain. Amen.